The woman by the highway. Ryan Porter, 34, truck driver from Reno, Nevada. Storm on the highway. The rain that night felt heavier than usual, pounding on the windshield of Ryan Porter's rig as he rolled along US Route 50. It was past midnight, and the highway was a ribbon of glistening black cutting through endless desert. Ryan had been hauling freight for 12 hours straight, caffeine and static from a country radio station keeping him awake. Lightning flashed across the horizon, revealing empty land on both sides. No houses, no lights, just the skeletal outlines of telephone poles slicing through the storm. He checked his CB radio. Silence, not even chatter from nearby truckers. He was completely alone. As rain intensified, his wipers squealed against the glass. He slowed the rig down near a curve, and that's when he saw her. A woman standing by the side of the road. She was barefoot, wearing a long white dress, soaked to her skin. Her hair clung to her face, and she held something in her hands. Maybe a purse, maybe nothing at all. Ryan braked hard, heart pounding. He rolled down his window. "Hey, you okay out there?" he yelled over the rain. The woman didn't answer. She just stood still, her head tilted slightly, but watching him. When lightning flashed again, she was gone. No footsteps, no movement, and just empty. Wet asphalt where she had stood seconds before. He laughed nervously, rubbing his face. "I'm just tired," he muttered. Seeing things. He put the truck in gear and rolled forward, but as he passed the mile marker ahead, his headlights caught something again. The same woman, standing in the middle of the road, smiling. The passenger seat, Ryan's foot slammed on the brake pedal. The truck skidded slightly before stopping. The woman was right there, illuminated in his high beams. Her face was pale, lips curved in a faint smile that didn't reach her eyes. He honked. No reaction. Rain drenched her completely, but she didn't shiver, didn't blink. "Ma'am, you're gonna get yourself killed," he shouted, stepping out of the cab. The air was freezing, the storm biting against his skin. He moved toward her cautiously. "Are you hurt? Do you need a ride?" She lifted her head, her hair parting slightly, revealing deep bruises around her neck like rope marks. Her voice came out barely audible over the rain. "Can you take me home?" Ryan hesitated. Something about her voice. It didn't sound like it came from her throat. It was hollow, like an echo. Still, his instincts as a decent human overrode fear. Yeah, get in. I'll drive you to town." He opened the passenger door for her and climbed back into the driver's seat. The seat beside him was wet. She'd sat down silently, staring forward. "Where to?" he asked her. "Just keep driving," she whispered. Lightning flashed again, and for half a second he saw her reflection in the windshield. Her face wasn't her face anymore. It was rotted. Eyes dark, mouth stretched into a silent scream. He blinked, and she looked normal again. Pale, soaked, silent, Ryan's knuckles tightened on the wheel. The highway ahead stretched into darkness. He didn't want to ask, but something told him if he didn't, she would, and then she turned slowly toward him. "You missed the turn," she said softly. The house in the rain, Ryan's pulse raced. "What turn?" he asked, eyes flicking between her and the road. "The one that leads home," she murmured. "Back there." He looked in the rearview mirror, nothing but rain. "I didn't see any road," she smiled faintly. "You weren't supposed to." Her words chilled him. But curiosity, or maybe dread, made him press the brakes and reverse the rig. After about 50 yards, he noticed it, a narrow dirt path cutting into the darkness, nearly invisible through the rain. "No sign, no markers, you mean that?" he asked. She nodded once. He turned the wheel slowly, gravel crunching beneath the tires as he pulled onto the muddy path. The headlights cut through thick sheets of rain, illuminating trees that shouldn't have been there, tall, black, gnarled like bones. After a few minutes, a house appeared through the storm. An old crumbling farmhouse with one porch light flickering weakly. Ryan swallowed. "This your place?" The woman didn't answer. She was staring straight ahead. When the truck stopped, she opened the door without a word and stepped out. Lightning split the sky again, and for a second, Ryan saw something behind her on the porch. A second figure. A man hanging from the rafters by a rope. Ryan blinked hard. The porch was empty again. The woman had vanished, and then he heard it, soft tapping on the truck's passenger window. When he turned, she was back. Only this time she was outside the truck. and her face was inches from the glass. The stranger at the door. Ryan floored the gas pedal, fishtailing on the mud until he was back on the main road. His breath came in gasps, his hands trembling so hard he could barely grip the wheel. The rain didn't let up. It got heavier, pounding like fists on the windshield. He switched on his CB radio, shouting, "This is truck 4829. Anyone near Route 50? I need help. There's someone out here." Static, then a voice. But it wasn't a trucker's, it was hers. "You shouldn't have left me, Ryan." He froze. The CB crackled again, faint laughter echoing through the line. He yanked the cord out of the unit and swore under his breath. A few miles ahead, he spotted a diner, lights flickering through the rain. The only sign of life for miles. He pulled in fast, parked crookedly, and ran inside. The place was empty except for an older waitress cleaning tables. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said, raising an eyebrow. He told her what happened, the woman, the house, the voice on the radio. She stared at him for a long moment, face paling. "What mile marker did you see her at?" 74, he said. The waitress swallowed hard. "That's where they found her. The woman you saw, she was killed by her husband, hung herself in that old house. That was 15 years ago." Ryan shook his head. "No, she was real. She talked to me." The woman put down her rag. "Then you'd better hope she doesn't follow you." The return trip. Ryan left the diner 2 hours later, the storm finally thinning. He felt drained, his nerves frayed, but as he drove, something nagged at him, guilt. The woman's words echoed in his mind. "Can you take me home?" He thought maybe he was hallucinating, but part of him needed closure. He decided to drive back, just once, to the same mile marker. The road was eerily quiet. No other cars, no sound but the rain tapping his windshield again. When he reached marker 74, he slowed. The dirt road was still there, but the house wasn't. He got out, stepping into the mud. The air smelled of wet earth and decay. There were no tracks, no foundation, nothing but empty field. A chill crawled up his spine. Then, faintly, he heard something, a woman humming. He turned toward the truck. She was sitting inside it, in the passenger seat, soaked, smiling. Ryan stumbled backward, heart slamming in his chest. No, you're not real." She tilted her head. "You said you'd take me home." He ran toward the cab, but when lightning flashed, the seat was empty again. Only a single wet footprint remained on the floor mat. The possession. Ryan drove as fast as he could, desperate to leave the highway behind. But the rain followed, heavier, darker. His windshield fogged up, forcing him to wipe it constantly. Each time he did, he saw her reflection in the glass, closer every time. He shut his eyes, whispering, "She's not real. She's not real." The radio turned on by itself. Static, then her voice again, singing softly the same tune he'd heard outside. He reached for the knob to turn it off, but his hand stopped halfway. His own reflection in the window wasn't his anymore. It was hers, eyes hollow, mouth twisted into that same haunting smile. He slammed the brakes, clutching his head. "Get out of me!" Lightning struck nearby, blinding white. When it cleared, his truck was stopped in the middle of the highway. The passenger door was open, and sitting on the dashboard was a wet Polaroid, a picture of him, standing by the side of the road, looking lost. The aftermath. The next morning, state troopers found the truck abandoned near mile marker 74. The engine was running, headlights still on, no sign of Ryan. Inside the cab, the radio hummed softly. The trooper leaned in, then froze. Through the static, a faint voice whispered, "Can you take me home?" In the back seat was a water-stained driver's license, Ryan Porter, and on the windshield, drawn with a wet finger, were 2 words, "Thank you." Locals say that ever since that night, when it rains hard on Route 50, truckers sometimes see a woman by the road. She waves, smiles, and if you're foolish enough to stop, she asks the same question, "Can you take me home?" The endless ride. Weeks later, a new driver named Carlos took the same route. He'd heard the stories, laughed them off, but when the storm hit, and the wipers fought the downpour, he saw her, a barefoot woman in a white dress, standing by the road. Out of instinct, he slowed. When he passed her, he glanced in his rearview mirror. She was gone. He exhaled in relief until he heard movement behind him. He turned. There she was, sitting in the passenger seat, drenched, smiling faintly. "Thanks for stopping," she whispered. Lightning flashed, and both of them disappeared into the storm. To this day, truckers still swear they see lights flicker near mile marker 74, and sometimes they find wet footprints on their seats when the rain clears. The motel room that wasn't empty. The storm rolled in as Lydia's wipers smeared the glass with muddy streaks. It was past 11 p.m., and she'd been driving all day through the winding roads of West Virginia. The GPS had lost signal an hour ago, and the mountain fog made every turn feel like a blind gamble. When she finally spotted the flickering red sign of the Mountain View Motel, relief flooded her. She turned into the gravel lot, headlights sweeping across 7 units, all dark except one. Inside the small office, an old man sat behind the counter, his flannel shirt soaked with rain. He smiled faintly when she entered. "Long night, huh?" "You're lucky." Only one room left, number 6. Lydia signed the logbook, paid cash, and took the key, the kind with a real metal tag. The man didn't ask where she was from. Didn't say much at all. Room 6 smelled faintly of mildew and cleaner. The TV flickered with static, and thunder rolled in the distance. She tossed her bag on the bed, kicked off her shoes, and sat down, exhausted. Through the paper-thin walls she heard a faint rhythmic tapping, like knuckles on wood. She assumed it was plumbing or wind. But it continued. Taps, tap, tap. When she pressed her ear against the wall, the tapping stopped. Then, in a soft, almost childlike voice, she heard, "Can you keep it down in there?" Lydia froze. There was supposed to be no one in the adjacent room. The old man said every other unit was empty, and outside the only other car in the lot was hers. The voice next door. Rain lashed the windows, wind howling through cracks in the frame. Lydia sat up in bed, heart pounding, staring at the thin wall beside her. She called out, trying to sound calm. "Sorry, didn't mean to bother you." Silence. Then, after a long pause, a whisper came again, closer this time. "You shouldn't be here." Lydia stood, turning off the TV. "What did you say?" No response. Just faint scratching on the wall, like fingernails dragging against plaster. She took a step toward the adjoining door, the locked one between room 5 and room 6, and put her ear against it. A soft humming came from the other side. A woman's voice. The tune was strange, like an old lullaby. Lydia's stomach tightened. She returned to the window and peered outside. Still no lights in room 5, no car parked outside it. She grabbed her phone. No service. Figures. She decided to go back to the front office and ask the old man if anyone else had checked in. When she stepped into the rain and hurried to the office, she saw the same flickering bulb inside, but the counter was empty. The logbook was open, and her name wasn't the last entry. There was another one written right above hers. Room 5, Meredith Shaw. The date beside it made her blood run cold. It was from 1989. The room that doesn't exist. Lydia grabbed the old bell on the counter and rang it sharply. No one came. "Hello? Anyone here?" The rain pounded harder, wind rattling the thin glass windows. She peeked into the back office through the half-open door. The light flickered over a cluttered desk, a half-eaten sandwich, and a faded newspaper clipping pinned to the wall. She stepped closer, squinting at the headline. "Young woman found dead in motel room. Suspect missing." The photo beneath it showed a familiar sign. Mountain View Motel. The article was dated 1989, and the victim's name, Meredith Shaw. Lydia felt her breath hitch. She backed away slowly, bumping into the counter. Something clattered behind her, the register drawer sliding open by itself. Inside, on top of the old receipts, lay a motel key. Number 5. She looked toward the row of rooms outside through the window. Room 5's light was off, curtain drawn. Against her better judgment, she took the key. Her fingers trembled as she stepped out into the rain, gravel crunching underfoot. The storm muffled all other sounds. But as she reached the door of room 5, she realized something strange. There was no number plate on it, just faint discoloration where one used to be. She hesitated, glancing back at the office. A shadow moved inside, watching her. Then she heard it again, that soft lullaby from behind the door. and slowly the doorknob began to turn. From the inside room 5, the door creaked open an inch, the air behind it stale and heavy with damp. "Hello?" Lydia whispered. "Is someone in there?" No response. She pushed it open wider. The smell hit her first. Mold, rot, something sweet and metallic underneath. Lightning flashed, and for a split second she saw the room clearly. Furniture overturned. Wallpaper peeled away like dead skin. On the far wall, dark stains crawled down toward the floor, and in the corner a woman sat on the bed, her head bowed. Lydia's voice trembled. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" The woman didn't move. Her hair was wet, tangled, dripping onto her lap. When Lydia took a step closer, thunder rolled overhead, and the woman's head snapped up. Her eyes were white, unfocused, her mouth hanging slightly open. "You came back," she whispered. "You're late," Lydia stumbled back. I don't know you." The woman stood, her limbs jerky, unnatural. "He said you would come back for me." "Who?" But before Lydia could move, the door slammed shut behind her. Rain roared outside, wind shrieking through cracks. The light bulb flickered violently, then popped, plunging the room into darkness. And in the pitch black she felt cold fingers wrap around her wrist. The old manager, Lydia, screamed, jerking away, fumbling for the door handle. When she burst back into the rain, she didn't stop running until she reached the office. The old man was there now, sitting calmly behind the counter, as if he'd never left. "You went into that room, didn't you?" he said flatly. Her voice shook. "What is that place?" "There's someone in there, some woman," he sighed, rubbing his temple. "That room's been locked for 30 years. I don't rent it out. I just saw her." He looked up sharply. "Meredith?" The name sent chills down her spine. He walked to the back shelf, pulled out a dusty ledger and turned it around. "That room's cursed," he said quietly. "Girl was strangled by her boyfriend back in '89. He hung himself in the woods behind the property. Police boarded it up after the body was found." Lydia's voice was barely a whisper. "Then how did I get in?" The man didn't answer. He stared past her toward the window, his face pale. Lydia turned, and there, reflected in the rain-streaked glass, stood the woman from room 5, right behind her. "The rain never stops," Lydia spun around, but the lobby was empty. The air felt colder, the lights flickering more violently. The old man's chair was vacant now, spinning slowly as if someone had just left it. The sound of dripping water echoed in the room. She looked down, puddles forming beneath her feet. The rain wasn't just outside anymore. It was seeping through the ceiling, trickling down the walls, and then she saw it, handprints. Wet, smeared, sliding down the glass doors from the inside. "Stop this!" Lydia shouted. A whisper came from behind the counter. "You shouldn't have opened her door." Lightning flashed and she saw movement outside. The entire row of motel doors were now open, every single one swinging slowly in the storm. She backed toward the exit and froze. Through the sheets of rain, the figures began to appear. Dozens of them. Men, women, all drenched, faces blank, drifting toward the office. Every one of them looked waterlogged. Their mouths moved in unison, whispering one word: "Stay." The flooded motel water rose quickly, flooding across the lobby floor. Lydia waded through it, panic clawing her chest. She tried the front door, it wouldn't budge. The ghosts, or whatever they were right outside now, their faces pressed to the glass, their breath fogging it up. Lydia screamed, pounding on the door. "Let me out." Behind her, the radio crackled to life, hissing static before a soft voice came through. "You took my key." She turned. Meredith stood waist-deep in water, her dress floating around her like fog. "You shouldn't have come here," she said, her voice both sad and accusing. Lydia shook her head. "I didn't know. Please, I'll leave." Meredith smiled faintly. "No one leaves. Not until it stops raining." The water surged higher, pulling Lydia under. She screamed, thrashing, trying to surface. Her vision blurred. Rain, darkness, faces swirling around her, and then stillness. The motel today. The Mountain View Motel still stands on Route 19. Locals say it hasn't had a guest in decades, though the neon vacancy sign still flickers during storms. Every so often, travelers who break down nearby claim they see the glow of a single light. Room 6. They say if you check the guest book inside the office, the last signature is from a woman named Lydia Monroe, and beneath her name, written in shaky, wet ink, there's one more line: Checked out, room 5, when it rains hard enough. Truckers swear they can see her figure standing by the office window, soaked to the bone, waiting for someone else to stop for the night, and those who do never check out again. The man by the bridge, Darren Lowe, 34, delivery driver for FedEx. The storm route. The rain that night wasn't normal. It came down in thick sideways sheets that made the highway disappear into a blur of grey. Darren Lowe was already behind schedule, his GPS rerouting him through a back road called Old Creek Route. He cursed under his breath. He'd driven it once before, years ago. Narrow, cracked asphalt, forest on both sides, and that old steel bridge no one liked to cross. Lightning flashed, and the trees seemed to bend toward the van as he slowed near the bridge. The sign ahead was rusted, letters barely readable. Bridge unsafe, closed after dark. Darren grinned nervously. Perfect, he muttered, shifting into low gear. The wind whistled through cracks in the windshield as he inched forward. Rain hammered the van roof like drumbeats. The bridge groaned under his tires, the hollow clang echoing through the night. He couldn't see more than 10 feet ahead, just the rhythmic swish of wipers and flashes of lightning. Then, a shape, a man, standing dead center on the bridge. No umbrella, no coat, just a figure drenched facing him. Darren slammed on the brakes. "Hey, you okay?" he shouted over the storm. The man didn't move. Lightning flashed again, and for that split second Darren saw his face, or rather the lack of it. The face. In the rain, Darren's pulse pounded in his ears. "Jesus Christ," he whispered, shifting the van into reverse. But the tires spun on slick metal. He hit the horn, nothing but a muffled wheeze. The figure didn't flinch. It just tilted its head slightly as if studying him. Rain poured harder, blurring the windshield completely. Darren wiped at the glass with his sleeve, trying to keep him in sight. But when lightning struck again, the man was gone. Darren's chest tightened. He stepped out, his flashlight beam slicing through the sheets of rain. "Hey, you out here?" The wind swallowed his voice. He moved slowly toward the center of the bridge. The steel creaked under each step. Water rushed below, roaring like thunder. Then he saw something glint on the ground, a small metal badge, old and rusted. He picked it up. Joseph Avery, County Sheriff. Confused, Darren turned and froze. Someone was now standing by his van. The flashlight flickered. For a second he thought it was his reflection in the wet chrome, until it started walking toward him. The man's movements were jerky, puppet-like, his face still blank, and as he got closer, Darren realized something horrifying. The figure was wearing a sheriff's uniform, badge and all, the same badge that was still clutched in Darren's hand. The bridge keeper Darren ran. His boots slipped on the wet steel as thunder cracked overhead. He dove into the van, slamming the door and locking it. His breathing was ragged, his heart hammering so hard it hurt. He flicked the headlights on and nothing. Darkness. The bridge stretched behind him, and that faceless figure was now walking straight down the center. Come on," he muttered, slamming the ignition. The van coughed, sputtered, and died. Rain smeared across the windshield as the man got closer, each step steady and deliberate. Darren grabbed his phone, no signal. He tried honking again, slamming the steering wheel in panic. Then came the tapping, soft, deliberate, on the driver's window. Darren turned his head slowly. The figure stood inches away. Water dripped off its hat brim. Its head tilted again, and then impossibly it smiled. The skin stretched, tearing where the mouth should be, blood mixing with rain. Darren screamed, throwing the van into gear. The tires finally gripped, and he shot forward across the bridge. But when he looked in the rearview mirror, the figure wasn't behind him, it was on the roof. The weight above metal screeched as the van shook violently. Darren swerved, barely keeping control. He could hear it crawling above him, slow, deliberate thuds against the roof. He grabbed the wheel tighter. "Stay calm. Just make it off the bridge," he muttered, repeating it like a mantra. Rain poured in sheets, lightning turning the road into flashes of white and shadow. He could hear breathing now. Not his own, heavier, distorted, right above the cab. Something slammed into the windshield from outside, cracking it. A pale hand pressed against the glass, fingers long and misshapen. Darren shouted and ducked as the roof buckled inward. He hit the gas harder, engine roaring. Finally, with one last groan, the van burst off the bridge onto gravel. The sound stopped. Silence, except for the storm. He slowed to a crawl, chest heaving, trying to catch his breath. It's gone. It's gone. But when lightning flashed again, the reflection in the rear view wasn't his. It was the faceless man, sitting in the back seat. The passenger, Darren, screamed and spun around, but the seat was empty. He blinked hard, shaking his head. I'm losing it. That bridge messed me up. Still trembling, he kept driving until he reached a gas station on the outskirts of town. The bright fluorescent lights felt like heaven after that nightmare. He parked crookedly and stumbled inside. The clerk, a young guy in his 20s, looked up. Dude, you okay? You look like hell. There's something on that bridge, a man. Sheriff's uniform. The clerk froze mid-sentence. Bridge on Old Creek route? Yeah. The clerk's face went pale. He slowly pointed to a photo taped behind the counter, a framed newspaper clipping. Local sheriff dies in flood, 1979. The man in the picture was smiling proudly beside his patrol car. Badge number 231, name Joseph Avery. That bridge washed out during the storm that killed him, the clerk said quietly. They never found his body. Darren staggered back. The badge he'd picked up was still in his pocket, and when he pulled it out, the number etched into it read 231. The radio call Darren left the station, desperate to get home. The rain had eased, but the night felt heavier, the air thick with static. He turned on the van's radio, hoping for some noise, anything normal. But it buzzed with nothing but white hiss. Then, faintly, through the static came a voice. Dispatch. This is Sheriff Avery. There's a vehicle stranded on the bridge. Darren froze. He turned the knob, trying to tune it out. But the voice grew clearer, closer. Possible single male driver. So I'm going to make contact. Darren slammed the radio off, heart hammering. This can't be real. Then his headlights flickered and there, through the rain-streaked windshield, stood the figure again. He was in the middle of the road, hat low, dripping water, arm raised in a slow, mocking wave. Darren spun the wheel, tire screeching. He tore down the side road, splashing through puddles until the van fishtailed and hit a ditch. The engine sputtered, died, and in the sudden quiet he heard it again, went over the pounding rain, bootsteps, getting closer. The last delivery. The footsteps stopped right outside the driver's door. Darren held his breath, clutching the badge in one hand like a charm. The handle rattled once, twice. Then a calm voice said, "Oh, you shouldn't have taken my name." The door unlocked itself with a click. The figure leaned in, dripping onto the seat, his face almost visible now. Melted features like wax, a faint outline of eyes that didn't blink. Darren scrambled out the passenger side, falling into the mud. He ran toward the woods, branches whipping against his face. Lightning lit up the forest, and every flash showed the sheriff just a few steps behind, walking, not running, his boots sinking silently into the mud. Darren tripped, the badge flying from his hand. It landed in the mud, glowing faintly in the stormlight. He reached for it, but a hand closed over his wrist, cold, wet, heavy. The sheriff's hollow voice whispered, "You're my last report." And then everything went black. The new badge 3 days later, a road crew discovered Darren's van abandoned by the ditch. Keys still in the ignition, doors locked. They found his delivery logs soaked through and one strange item on the dashboard, a tarnished sheriff's badge. Badge number 231. Locals still avoid Old Creek route after dark. They say during heavy rain, if you stop by the bridge, your radio picks up an old transmission, a sheriff reporting a stranded driver. And sometimes, when lightning flashes, you can see 2 figures standing together on that rusted bridge, one in uniform, one in a FedEx jacket. Neither ever move, both waiting for the next storm. The motel room with the red door. Samantha Sam Givens, 28, freelance photographer traveling alone. The last vacancy, it was close to midnight when Sam's windshield wipers gave up against the downpour. The rain blurred the road into a river of light. She'd been driving for hours after her last photo assignment in Memphis, heading toward Nashville. When the sign flickered through the storm, Pine Hollow Motel, vacancy. The building looked like a relic from the 1960s, paint peeling, neon buzzing faintly, one light out of every 3 dead. She hesitated, but another lightning flash made up her mind. There wasn't another exit for miles. The clerk was an elderly man in a threadbare cardigan, his eyes pale and unfocused. He slid a key across the counter marked Room 9, red door. "Cash only," he rasped. As she parked, thunder rolled across the empty lot. Every room looked abandoned, curtains drawn tight, except hers. Room 9's door stood out, painted deep red like dried blood, the only one glowing under a flickering bulb. Inside smelled of mildew and cheap cleaner. She threw her camera bag on the bed, kicked off her boots and checked her phone. No signal. Then she heard it, a faint tapping on the window. Slow, measured. She pulled the curtain aside. Nothing but sheets of rain, but when she turned away, there was a wet footprint on the carpet behind her. The footsteps outside Sam froze, the sound of rain filling the silence again. The footprint was small, bare, maybe the size of a child's. She kneeled down, touching the edge. Still wet, her heart thudded in her chest as she followed it to the bathroom. Nothing. Just the leaky faucet dripping in sync with the storm. Trying to shake the nerves, she grabbed her camera, checking her photos from earlier. But one image she didn't remember taking caught her eye, the motel's red door shot from outside in the pouring rain. She frowned. "How?" A low creak from the ceiling interrupted her thought. Then another. Someone was walking above her, heavy, deliberate steps. She went to the window again and noticed something strange. The motel only had 1 floor. Her stomach dropped. Suddenly, the footsteps stopped. The phone on the nightstand rang, an old rotary model she hadn't noticed before. The shrill sound cut through the storm. Sam hesitated, then lifted the receiver. Static hissed, then faintly a whisper. "Don't look in the mirror." The line went dead. Her eyes darted toward the bathroom mirror, the only one in the room, and for a second, she thought she saw movement, a shape standing behind her reflection. The mirror warning, her scream drowned beneath the thunder. She spun around. Nothing. Just the curtain swaying slightly, as wind seeped through a crack in the frame. She forced herself to laugh. "I'm tired, that's all." But when she looked back at the mirror, the reflection of the room didn't match. The bed was empty in real life, but in the glass someone was lying on it. Her breath hitched. The reflection's body rose slowly, like waking from a long sleep. She blinked hard, and the image was gone. Heart pounding, she backed away until she hit the door. Her hand fumbled for the knob, but it wouldn't turn. Locked. Rain hammered harder against the window. Then a child's giggle, faint coming from inside the room. Sam grabbed her camera instinctively and snapped a photo toward the sound. The flash illuminated the entire room, and in that split second she saw it. A small, pale figure crouched in the corner near the bed. When the flash faded, it was gone. The camera printed the instant photo automatically. She waited, trembling, for the image to appear. Slowly a shape formed. A child, smiling, eyes black as coal, and behind him, the motel clerk standing in the open doorway of her room. The red door rule, Sam's head whipped toward the entrance, but the door was still locked from inside. No one there. She turned the photo over. Written on the back, in smeared ink, "Don't open the red door again." She didn't remember ever closing it. Lightning flashed outside, and through the narrow gap in the curtain, she saw the clerk standing under the rain, motionless, staring at her window. Panicked, she grabbed her keys and rushed to the door. But the knob turned endlessly, clicking without opening. Something banged hard from the other side. 3 heavy knocks. "Sam," a man's voice said. "Let me in. It's not safe out here." Her breath caught. He knew her name. "Who are you?" She shouted. "Room service," the voice said calmly. She glanced at the bedside table. There was no phone menu, no service list. Then came the scraping, like nails dragging slowly across wood. Sam stepped back as splinters cracked from the doorframe. She raised her camera again. Click. The flash showed something terrifying. A hand coming through the door, grey skin and water pouring from its sleeve. The man in the hallway. The wood split and the knob twisted violently. Sam backed toward the bathroom, clutching her phone. No signal still. The door finally burst open, swinging hard against the wall. The hallway beyond was empty. Only water pooled at the threshold, footprints leading away. "Think," she whispered, forcing herself to breathe. "Just get help." She darted out into the corridor. Every door was open now, the red paint peeling like fresh wounds. Inside each room she caught glimpses, suitcases half-packed, wet clothes draped over chairs, all abandoned mid-moment. At the far end, a single bulb flickered above the clerk's office. She ran toward it. But halfway down, the floorboards squelched under her, water rising fast. Her shoes soaked through as she realized the motel was flooding from underneath. Lightning flashed, and the hallway mirrors on either side of her showed people, dozens of them, standing still, watching her. But when she turned her head, the hallway was empty again. Then a figure stepped from the clerk's office. The same man, cardigan dripping, eyes hollow. "You shouldn't have taken room 9, he said softly. "It's already occupied." The flood below Sam stumbled back as water surged from the floor vents. The old man kept walking toward her, each step rippling the rising flood. She shouted, "What do you want from me?" He smiled faintly. "To finish what you started." His reflection in the mirror beside them didn't match. Instead of a frail old man, she saw a younger version in a sheriff's uniform, face mangled and wet. She turned and ran, slipping on the slick boards, until she reached a side door marked maintenance. It opened to a narrow stairwell leading down. The smell hit first, rot and stagnant water. She descended slowly, flashlight shaking. The basement stretched into dark water ankle deep. Then her light caught something, rows of photos pinned to the wall. Instant camera shots, dozens of faces, men, women, children, all taken inside room 9. She dropped her flashlight as her stomach turned. The latest photo at the bottom was of her, entering the motel lobby that same night, from behind her. The last picture footsteps sloshed through the water behind her. Sam spun, grabbing her camera like a weapon. The flashlight rolled, landing on a submerged suitcase, dozens of old room keys inside, each tagged red door. "Why me?" she shouted. The clerk's voice echoed softly. "Because you looked in the mirror." She fired the camera flash repeatedly, each burst revealing him closer, first at the doorway, then halfway across the room, then right in front of her. His face was no longer human, eyes hollow sockets, water streaming endlessly from his mouth. He reached for her camera, whispering, "Say cheese," she screamed and snapped one last shot, the flash so bright it blinded her. When her vision cleared, he was gone. The basement was empty, but the camera printed one final image. Curling in her trembling hands, a photo of room 9's red door, now shut tight, water seeping beneath it. The room still open. 2 days later, state troopers found the Pine Hollow Motel half collapsed from flooding. The property was declared condemned. They found no trace of Sam, but her camera washed up miles downstream, memory card intact. Inside were exactly 99 photos, the last one showing a red door cracked open. A woman's silhouette framed inside, mid-turn. Locals say during heavy rain, the motel sign flickers again for a few minutes before blacking out. Travelers who take shelter there never check out. And if you ever drive Highway 14 in a storm, they warn you not to stop near the motel with the red door glowing in the dark, because if you do, your reflection might not follow you home. To the highway listener, the storm on Route 26 rain had been falling non-stop for 14 hours. Ethan's wipers could barely keep up, and the fog along Oregon's forest highway was thick as smoke. It was past 1 a.m., and the only sound inside his rig was the steady hum of the CB radio, static and the occasional trucker chatter. He'd been hauling lumber toward Portland, planning to pull over at a rest stop soon, but as he crested a hill, he noticed flashing lights ahead. Not blue or red, but amber. Like a construction site with no workers, the GPS showed nothing. Slowing down, he saw an old pickup parked sideways on the shoulder. Its door hung open, hazard lights blinking through the rain. Ethan leaned out his window and shouted, "You okay out there?" No answer. Only the hiss of water on asphalt. He climbed down, flashlight in hand, boots splashing in deep puddles. The pickup's interior was empty, except for a CB mic dangling from the dashboard, still crackling faintly. A man's voice came through the static. "You shouldn't have stopped, Ethan." He froze. Nobody knew his name. The voice on the radio. Ethan slammed the truck door shut and turned the key. The diesel engine roared to life, headlights piercing the downpour. His heart pounded as he looked at the CB unit, still tuned to channel 19. He lifted the mic slowly. "Who is this?" Static, then breathing. Long wet breaths that didn't sound mechanical. "Keep driving. I'm right behind you." Ethan's rearview mirror caught only darkness and a thin line of water trailing down the back window. No headlights, no taillights. He flicked through every channel. All static. Until you passed mile marker 47, that's where she died. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the trees, and for a fraction of a second, he saw someone standing on the shoulder. A woman, soaked, barefoot. When the light faded, she was gone. He pressed the pedal down hard. Tires spitting water. The radio hissed again. "You left your door unlocked?" Ethan's hand flew to the handle. The click echoed louder than the thunder. The girl in the rain. Miles later, the storm intensified. The road twisted through thick forest. No service, no houses, only mist curling like smoke around the pines. Ethan's nerves were fraying. He kept glancing in the mirror, sure he'd see something, and then he did. A faint reflection in the sleeper window behind him. A girl, pale face, wet hair plastered to her cheeks, staring straight into his eyes through the glass. Ethan swerved, nearly clipping the guardrail. He turned, shouting, "Hey! What the hell?" The cab was empty. Breathing hard, he pulled onto the shoulder and reached back to yank open the sleeper curtain. Nothing. Just the blanket he'd thrown there hours ago, now damp with rainwater. The radio clicked again by itself. "She wants to come home." Lightning flashed outside, revealing a small handprint on the inside of his windshield, too small to be his, and under it, words traced in the fog, "Don't leave me again." The town that wasn't there panicked. Ethan pushed forward. The GPS now showed a town up ahead, Briar Ridge, population 620. He'd never heard of it, but the rain was relentless, and he needed people, light, anything. Minutes later, faint yellow street lamps appeared through the haze. He exhaled in relief as he rolled down the deserted main street. Small storefronts, gas station, diner, all dark but still standing. He pulled into the diner lot, stepped out, and called through the storm, "Hello? Anyone here?" The bell over the door jingled as he entered. Inside, every table was set, half-eaten plates of food, coffee cups still steaming. He whispered, "No way." Then the radio on the counter crackled to life. The same voice, "You finally came back." The lights flickered. The reflection in the diner window showed people sitting at every table, motionless, soaked, faces pale and waterlogged. When he turned around, the diner was empty again. The accident return. Ethan staggered outside, stumbling toward his truck. But the fog had thickened so badly he couldn't even see the hood. Somewhere ahead, a faint rhythmic tapping began, metal against metal. He followed the sound to the middle of the street. There, through the fog, he saw it. A wrecked pickup truck. The same one he'd stopped for earlier that night. Its windshield was shattered, roof caved in. And inside, a young woman slumped over the wheel, her wet hair dripping. Ethan whispered, "Oh my God." Then he noticed the license plate. His own trucking company's tag. He stumbled back, heart pounding. "Till you hit me," the voice whispered right beside him. He spun. The woman was standing there now, eyes black, skin gray and cracked. "You didn't even stop." Rain poured harder, soaking his jacket. He remembered the accident a year ago. A dark night on this same highway, a sudden shadow, the impact, and him driving off, telling himself it was a deer. Now she was back. The pursuit. Ethan bolted for his rig, slamming the door and flooring the gas. The truck fishtailed before gaining traction. The radio erupted again, screams layered beneath static. The voice shrieked, "You left me in the rain!" His headlights flickered as he tore down the highway. Through the storm, silhouettes appeared along the roadside, soaked figures watching him pass, faces hidden. He reached for his phone, still no service. But the GPS recalibrated suddenly, showing his truck looping endlessly in circles around the same stretch of road. Come on," he yelled, hitting the dashboard. A child's voice came through the CB this time. "Daddy, why didn't you come home?" Ethan's breath caught. His daughter's voice. The windshield fogged over instantly, and on it, tiny handprints began forming from the inside. He screamed and wiped at the glass, but the hands pressed back. The bridge up ahead. The bridge loomed, narrow, half-collapsed from years of storms. The water below raged violently. Ethan didn't slow down. Lightning split the sky, revealing the woman standing in the middle of the bridge, drenched, arms outstretched. He slammed on the brakes. The truck skidded, horn blaring, tires screaming against wet concrete. The rig stopped inches from her. She leaned close to his window, whispering words he couldn't hear through the rain. He cracked it open just slightly, and her face pressed against the gap. Whispering, "You never called 911. He screamed and threw the truck in reverse, but as he backed away, she vanished. When he looked forward again, she was sitting in the passenger seat. The last transmission. 2 days later, Oregon State Patrol discovered Ethan's truck on the collapsed bridge. The cab was empty, engine still idling, headlights cutting through the fog. Inside, the CB radio was on, playing an endless loop of static, and faintly, a woman's laughter mixed in with rain. Locals say on stormy nights, if you drive that stretch of Route 26, you'll hear a man's desperate voice come through your CB radio or Bluetooth. "I didn't mean to leave her. I didn't mean to..." And sometimes, late truckers claim to see a figure standing on the bridge, waving them down. If they stop, they vanish, truck and all, because on that highway some accidents never end, and some ghosts don't just haunt, they listen.